What is up, my glorious souls? James Golden here, and if you are new to my channel, I am one of the main storytellers of the Sanguine universe and our show, Chance Die. I'm the author of these lovely books, and recently I've been running the first season of a Promethean Chronicle, which you can find on this channel under the Wrong Side of Heaven playlist. In that vein, it has been my divine pleasure to break down the exotic monsters that stumble through the world of darkness, the Prometheans, and illuminate their complex and often convoluted refinements and lineages. But we near the end of that road. The clock ticks inexorably towards midnight, and we along with it. Let us end this divine fire pilgrimage of learning with a note most explosive. Set up, strap in, and say your prayers. Tonight's topic is the Oppenheimers, the nuclear created themselves. This is Blacklist Redacted. Let's get into it. Zeka, children of the bomb. Humor, any of sanguine, melancholic, choleric, phlegmatic, or ectoplasmic, though tainted and radioactive. Element. The Zeka's tainted element is tied to their humor. Air for sanguine, earth for melancholic, fire for choleric, water for phlegmatic, spirit for ectoplasmic. Oppenheimer had no idea what he was talking about. But I can become death so very easily. They are few, but they are growing, steady, like a cancer. Like the spread of radiation through the land, the Zeka grow as a lineage. But they are still fewer than their closest brothers and sisters, the Frankenstein, and they are misbegotten, even by created standards. They are a fractured, fragmented lineage, potentially doomed to failure. And there are many truths to their origins, because in the exploration of the Zeki, there are many tales to be told. Theirs is a lineage born in the explosive violence of a nuclear device. The first Zeka was born in utter annihilation, a progenitor birthed by destruction and flame, but many have worked to create these horrific bombs over the years, and in much the same way, the children of the bomb have many Demiurges. The name of the lineage, Zeka, is derived from the Russian word for prisoner, and the most well-known story of their line. Once there was a Soviet nuclear gulag, an institutionalized prison, where inmates were made to work the mines and staff the nuclear test site, all while enduring tremendous radiation. A scientist there desired a more perfect servant, an ideal Zeka, one that could thrive in such conditions, a born slave with no preconceived notions against following orders. A nuclear Promethean. Though a success, the new being was no tame servant, but an unpredictable, godly being, certifiably mad and filled with the destructive atomic energy that created him. He filled his creator with unimaginable terror, and not just because of the radiation and disquiet the creature exuded. The Promethean behaved like a crazed pagan deity, a force of nature outside of nature. And when finally it escaped, leaving brutality and death in his wake, the creator died with relief in his soul, even as his organs ruptured from radiation poisoning. Unfortunately, there are too few Zeka to know if such behavior is standard for the Zeka. We cannot make concrete statements about what they collectively are like or what they desire, because they are not often long for this world. Those that endure their dreadful existence tend to be isolated, solitary creatures. One of these atomic created existed for little over a year before placing themselves at ground zero of another test site, desiring to be reduced to atoms rather than continue their bleak existence. Another, of the isolated solitary variety, has layered around the radioactive area of Selenfield for about 50 years now. Why exist like this? Why not try for more? The terrible truth of the Zeki is that everything hurts. Existence is agony. The closest siblings to the Zeki, the Frankensteins, they suffer for their separation from humanity. Their misbegotten bodies do ache, but the Zeki feel actual physical discomfort every waking second. Some suffer from consistent agonizing headaches, others bleed through their baked and scabbed skin, and almost all endure dull nausea. This pain rarely impairs the Zeki's ability to act and move, but it does contribute to their particular brand of torment. I listed the Frankensteins, the wretched, as the closest siblings of the Zeka, and with good reason. The Russian progenitor of the lineage was made using a copy of Victor Frankenstein's notes, and therefore made his Zeka Promethean from the irradiated corpses of prisoners and mine laborers. But despite the concrete beginnings of the progenitor, there is no specific way in which a Zeka makes another. That progenitor, and I say that because this line has started and stopped a few times, made the first of his lineage with a single corpse augmented with metal to replace the bits that atrophied from the radiation that killed him. Part of the brain required replacing as well, but in that, the progenitor discovered that a small piece of plutonium served the function quite sufficiently. Each Zeki creator has used a different method in the creation of their progeny, but there is one constant across the board, one means through which the Azoth of the Zeka is awakened: radiation. Though the first Zeka was born from nuclear fire, there are other sources of radiation that will function. One creator brought their progeny to life by destroying a small reactor in a civilian power station and then taking the body into the fire. The result was an individual horribly burnt, but imbued with Azoth nonetheless. Another Zeka buried the body of the first fatality the Chernobyl incident ever produced under the nearby Earth. They returned to the area once every year for a decade and dug it up to see if it had yet awakened. When the new Zeka did finally awake, it lay in the irradiated Earth for 6 long months, becoming mad and mute before its creator came to finally exhume them. As the Zeki gradually make more of their own, their numbers increase. The new Zeka generation tend to keep on the move, in much the same manner as other Prometheans. Their radioactive wasteland effect ravages any area they rest in, and so many only rest in contaminated areas. Sites of criticality accidents, spilled waste, or bomb test locations are common choices. The tragedy of the Zeka is not limited to daily existence. Their tainted nature follows them to the endgame as well. No Zeka has ever achieved the new dawn, mortality. It is supposedly possible for these beings, as all Prometheans, but if one were to reach that point, would the deadly nature of their own body even allow them to claim the prize without succumbing to intense radiation poisoning? What if mortality is closed to these tormented beings? If they are denied the pilgrimage, then what is the point of it all? Is there another path for them to take? An alternative? Over the last century, 5 mortal Demiurges have created nuclear Prometheans, who, for lack of a better term, are Zeki. Let us examine these individuals and their radioactive creations. In 1945, a scientist at the Manhattan Project went mad. He wanted to create life, not death, despite working on the most efficient killing weapon ever devised. On July 16th, with the cooperation of a handful of others, the scientist fastened a specially prepared corpse to a concrete slab a few miles away from the impact zone of the test bomb Trinity. And then they conducted the test. When they were able to return to the site with protective clothing, the body was gone. The Zeka they'd created stumbled from the test site and buried itself in the irradiated ground. When it was safe, he rose from the earth and moved on. That being is thought to be the first Zeka. He has yet to create proper progeny, but he has created several Pandorans, which does suggest that he's trying. However, at about the same time, a man in Hiroshima, Japan, driven by grief at the recent passing of his wife, and lit by divine fire inspiration, crafted a body befitting his fallen love. On the 6th of August, as Hiroshima burned in nuclear fire, the man died instantly, but a new being opened her eyes. The pyros transformed the devastating blast into Azoth and scorched her skin in the process. It is rumored that the Zeka still travels between Hiroshima and Nagasaki, acting as one of the survivors of the bomb, a hibakusha, for as long as that role can last. The next Zeka was born in 1954 when American forces took a German scientist mystic to Bikini Atoll, a chain of nuclear testing islands in the Central Pacific. The scientist was responsible not just for advancing the arms race, but for crafting a superhuman body, one made from death and metal to be born in apocalyptic fire. Before the largest test of Operation Castle in 1954, the physicists strapped the body to a bizarre mechanical device inspired by Paracelsian science and Heisenberg nuclear theory. They stayed with the body, adjusting the equipment even as the bomb went off. The inspired creator was obliterated as the force of the explosion brought the Azothic creation to life. But he would not tolerate life for long. The creature made could not endure his existence for more than a few days before he walked into the ocean, never to be seen again. Another Zeka was made just 2 years later in 1956 by a British scientist at Maralinga, Australia. Crafted in a blaze of divine inspiration, this Zeka was brought to life like its siblings before it, born in nuclear fire to a life of pain and suffering. It could not endure its existence and did not seek the pilgrimage. When the next bomb test was conducted a year later, he placed himself in the path, destroying himself the same way that he was brought into this world. 1958, the islands of Novaya Zemlya. This is where the creature that gave the lineage its name woke up. The Demiurge, Dr. Mikhail Alexandrovich Elizarov, was sent to the military installation to study the effects of radiation on the penal workers and, much to his surprise, discovered a copy of Victor Frankenstein's notes. He linked the principles Frankenstein built his creature with to his own understanding of nuclear physics and then made a body from the Zeki, the penal workers who had died from radiation poisoning. When the body was complete, Elizarov used the explosive force of a nuclear test to empower the creation with divine fire. The creature stayed with its creator for a time, though this was harrowing for Elizarov. When the authorities realized what the good doctor had done, they came to shut him down. But in this, the monster made his escape, blasting the soldiers and his creator with lethal doses of radiation. Elizarov died from fast-spreading cancer the very day he was sentenced to death by firing squad. Bit of a mercy. The creature remained on the island for a while, terrorizing the penal workers and military personnel stationed there. Strangely, after the Soviet military detonated the legendary Tsar Bomba in 1961, the Zeka left the island, taking that name, the name of the Great Bomb, as his own. Those who become Zeka are not defined by any specific trait other than lethal exposure to radiation. They can be anyone, look like anyone. The aforementioned Tsar Bomba, as an example, is a massive giant of a man constructed from the best parts of irradiated corpses, while the hibakusha we spoke of earlier resembles the wife the creator lost, albeit badly burned. Though ordinary humans cannot see a Zeka's disfigurements, they still carry visible marks of exposure to radiation. Many have a lack of hair or skin covered in burn scars. Their visible appearance is tainted by their nuclear azoth, generating an unsettling mix of sympathy and revulsion. When a Zeka's disfigurements do show, their skin becomes transparent, showcasing electrical wires, contacts, and sockets that serve functions to keep the body moving. Others, like the hibakusha of Hiroshima, stare with milky, colorless eyes, moving a dead body of crisp, blackened skin that still flickers with nuclear fire. Some might have lesions covering their entire body, tumors so thick and all-encompassing it is a wonder the creature can move at all, while another could have skin that draws in light, holding it within a prison of growing, solid shadow. As noted before, the Zeki do not have a defining humor. They can be made with any of the major governing humors of the Promethean. This element, however, is not a pure thing. It is an irradiated and tainted element, functional, but cancerous. Choleric humor fire takes on a depraved hue, while the sanguine humor of air manifests as indulgence of extreme appetites. Phlegmatic humor water exhibits a morbid fascination with horror, while those harboring melancholy humor earth are prone to self-loathing and deep depression. Ectoplasmic humor spirit manifests as crazed leaps of logic rather than intuition or instinct. On the optional pilgrimage of the Zeka, there are a handful of refinement options, but one in particular comes to them easily. Because of their radioactive mutagenic properties, the Zeka can drop into the monster's refinement of Centimani as easily as other lineages drop into and struggle to leave Stanum. The refinement of 10, therefore, is no easier for the Zeka to join than any of the other refinements, though there have been some who have practiced it quite well. The children of the bomb are no stranger to rage and violence, after all. A desire to be left alone could lead a Zeka to the refinement of Cuprum. There one might learn to hide away and practice communion with the natural world that they irradiate and harm. In theory, one could practice Mercurius or Ferrum, examining, exploring, and perfecting the physical body to better understand who and what they are. But Aurum, the refinement of gold, will almost certainly hold no attraction for the Zeka. Openly disfigured, even to mortal eyes, and dangerously radioactive, trying to fit into human society, even for brief spurts, is a danger to everyone involved. When it comes to character creation, physical attributes and skills are often front and center, as the Zeka are bound for hardship and isolation. But there are several that take to mental skills quite well. Perhaps one fortunate aspect of their being is an affinity for the unpalatable aura merit. Given the choice between pure and irradiated Pyros, a hungry Pandoran will often choose a regular Promethean over a Zeka. Unfortunately, there are no real virtues or vices that appeal particularly to the Zeka. The progenitors were born far from mortality, in nuclear destruction, and those that did make others passed little interest in such values to their creations. The Zeka are the children of the bomb, animated by Pyros as all Prometheans, but explosively different. They are not healed by electricity, but neither are they harmed by it. Their wasteland effect is slow, pervasive, and devastating to the land, while their torment is immediate and destructive, overtaking the Zeka and turning them into indiscriminate killing weapons, slaughtering anyone and everyone who gets in their way. They never asked to be, and yet the pilgrimage may be denied to them. Monsters made by monsters, the Zeka burn through Saturnine Night like nuclear fire, arriving in devastation and often leaving in a blaze of glory with lasting, cancerous consequences. My wondrous Nightside Explorers, thank you for taking this journey through nuclear Promethean history with me. The Zeka are the final lineage of Promethean the Created, and though there are other mysteries to explore in such a rich world, there is a topic I have sort of skirted around, video after video, mention after mention. As our Chance Die Promethean Chronicle, The Wrong Side of Heaven, builds to a Season 1 finale, so too must I wind down this alchemical topic of Azoth animated death and hypertech, with a mention most monstrous. Join me next time as we examine a refinement that eschews humanity in favor of otherworldly power and control. Next time, Centimani. For now, hold tight to your humanity, cherish the splendor and beauty of everyday life, and remember, no matter how bright that day gets, sanguine is the night.